If you have your first streaming source. So I spoke about MP3 and FLAC, right? So MP3 is a lossy compression format. And so if by switching to a lossless compression, you get a much better audio source itself. So it's as good as garbage in, garbage out. So if you have some terrible audio source, you will have terrible audio experience. So you go on from there, and then you say that you're improving your DAC. Why should you improve a DAC? Like, why should you bring, like, your phone has a DAC, your comp has a DAC, like I said, but why should you buy a separate DAC? Right? And then an amplifier, again, why should you buy a separate amplifier? Headphones and speakers, like, why do you need to go for the high end? Do you really need to shoot for the high end, or would anything from the mid end be sufficient for you?
Hello and welcome to Anteambulo, where we explore the unique journeys people embark on and tune into their insights on careers, products, ideas, and lives.
The nostalgic feeling of going to the theaters, eating popcorn, and getting engrossed in the movie has been a favorite pastime of mine. I'm sure even you enjoy watching a movie at the theaters. From single screens to multiplexes with advanced technologies to IMAX, the pinnacle of technology, we have seen the meteoric rise. Ford vs. Ferrari, a movie I remember so vividly on the IMAX screen, still gives me those chills. My doubt has been, can such an experience be created at home with the equipment we have? Today, let's find out with Umashankar.
When you want to consume audio, there are multiple stages in the pipeline. So the first stage would be the way you source the file itself. That is, if you want, you could have the audio as a file in your computer in some MP3 format or FLAC format, something like that. Or you could have the audio in a streaming format. Say, for example, you're streaming the audio from Spotify or from Apple Music or from Tidal or any other streaming platform, right? So that is the first step in your audio consumption experience. And the second step would be to convert those binaries, to convert your digital audio into something that you can listen to into physical space. So we are going from digital space, which is zeros and ones, and going into physical space. Pretty much your sine wave is what it's usually represented in, right? To convert this, you have something called as a DAC, which is a digital to analog converter. It is present in pretty much all of your smartphones, your laptops, your TVs, and anything that can play audio, anything that can get video audio from the internet and play it out, has to have a DAC inbuilt into the circuitry. This is the second part of your audio chain. Third part would be to have your amp, which is short for amplifier. So what this amp does is it takes your input from the DAC and it gives it the power that it needs to play out. So essentially, DAC, the circuitry of a DAC is that you don't get the volume that you need to listen to certain music or certain audio, for example. And amplifier provides you with the power, with the current, with the voltage for the audio that's coming in, and it boosts it. So that is essentially the function of an amp. And your final stage in your audio chain would be the output source. That is, it could be your headphones, it could be your speakers, it could be your earphones, or whatever it is, right? All in all, just to summarize, the entire audio experience would comprise of the audio source, which is either the FLAC or the MP3 file in your PC, or it could be the streaming source, which is Apple Music or Spotify. The second source would be the DAC, which is short for digital to analog converter, which takes in your digital bits and maps it to a sine wave in your physical space. And the third thing would be your amplifier, which helps in boosting the volume of your output from the DAC. And the fourth and the final piece would be the way the equipment you use to play the music, which could be your speakers, your headphones, earphones, etc. My journey in audio has been since I was a kid, I would say. I was not aware that I like audio so much, but I used to listen to a lot of music. I think it's partly due to my parents and my they were very big audio enthusiasts, what I would say. My grandfather had this surround sound setup in his home, and I used to look forward during weekends. I used to look forward to going to his house and listening to those surround sound experience. I think it's from such a young age is where I started getting into this hobby, but it's not exactly that I wanted to buy headphones and stuff like that, but it's just that the tendency of being interested in music started from there. And again, my dad used to have a lot of audio setups, and we used to experiment with a lot of speakers and headphones and stuff at home. And we used to try to understand how these things work. He's also into opening up speakers to understand how the membranes work and stuff like that. So I think it's just that in I've been exposed to such audio scenarios, and it just tends to trickle down, and it's just that that's how I feel my interest or my genuine tendency to incline towards audio just came from there. And since I was in college, I used to experiment in with a lot of EQ profiles and try to see how I can, with the given earphones, very cheap earphones, how can I improve the audio quality by using some different EQ profiles, trying to level out the bass or trying to improve the treble, stuff like that. And once I started working, I was able to splurge into this hobby and try to look into all the audio equipments and what other stuff was there, right? So I think this is where I started from, and what I'm looking forward to this journey is that I'm trying to look at how I can get a very natural experience of audio. If you were to say, for example, you have which gives you the very spatial surround sound kind of effect with stereo speakers, right? It's all software mockery again, but again, it's able to give you the illusion of there is a bird going around in the back and stuff like that, right? So I would want to replicate this, but not with software, but with the actual hardware itself, by having a surround sound setup and other stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. So my entire journey here is to have a very good replication of the real natural sound in within a room or within a confined space. On improving your setup, you need to first understand where you're at and create a baseline, right? I'm assuming all of you guys watching this video would probably have a phone and a headphone, or wired or wireless, right? I would suggest you guys to go and listen to some music and try to figure out what you're missing out on, what can be improved on. Say for example, maybe the bass is not sufficient, or maybe it's you're not able to extract more details from the music. And by the way, by bass I mean the low end, the low frequency, that the rumble that you get when you listen to a lot of EDMs, the boom that you get essentially from the EDMs, that's what bass is. And when I talk about treble, or when I talk about details, it's essentially how well you can pick out the instruments playing in the background. So what happens is, typically in most of the common setups that we have, these features tend to be mashed together or compressed, as we say it, such that you won't be able to listen to all those minute details, right? One free upgrade that I would suggest is to switch to a lossless compression. If you're streaming from Spotify, or if you're streaming from YouTube Music, what those platforms do is they compress your music, and they compress in a lossy format. In order to get the storage down, or in order to get the file size down, what they do is they take out most of the essential parts of the music, what the algorithm deems unnecessary. So in the sense, what happens is you tend to lose a lot of details in the music, tend to lose a lot of bits or bytes in the music, and this can end up causing a lot of vocals to be very congested, or in that matter. The very easy upgrade that you can do is to switch to a lossless compression, in the sense that you can probably switch to Apple Music, which provides a really good lossless compressed versions of the songs, or you can even download the lossless compressed version of your music by going on Google and downloading the FLAC versions of each of them. Second easy upgrade would be to equalize your setup. If you're using an Android or an iPhone, you can probably download some equalizer apps wherein you can tune the output of the audio from your phone to your liking. Say for example, if you're missing out on some bass, you can probably just increase the bass frequency in using the equalizer, and just get some idea as to what you can expect or what your tastes are like. So these are the quick and easy fix that you could do. And again, to talk about the audio space, it is not the case that the higher the cost you go, you will get the higher the experience. So it's not a linear proportionality. This is what I would like to say. It is up to you to find out where your sweet spot is, because the law of diminishing returns here is you reach diminishing returns here very quick. And there are headphones upwards of 6 lakhs, and there are DACs and amps upwards of 1 lakh, and it's not guaranteed to give you the best audio experience, right? So since audio is a very subjective space, I would suggest everyone to explore everything. Maybe go on to some audio store and just have a look at all the audio interfaces, all the audio equipments, and see what suits to your liking, and see what your budgets are like and how much you can spend. Right now, having said this, if equalizer and lossless compression does not fix your problem, you could probably go on to thinking about upgrading your DAC and amp setup, because the DAC and amp that you get with your computers or your phones are not of that high quality, because they are built in with a lot of circuitry in mind. In phone, for example, you have your network radio band, which will interfere with your DAC's circuitry, which can cause a lot of hisses and noises and stuff like that. Essentially, pulling the DAC and amp out of your entire streaming setup might help you to get a better setup, as well as the amp. The entire functionality of an amp is to bring out the power, to bring out the volume in the music. And if, as the battery of a phone cannot provide that power, or the battery of a laptop cannot provide that power, so bringing it out and plugging it to the wall gives you the spread of the music that you would like to listen to. That's one thing. And the final piece to this is to actually upgrade audio equipment itself, that is your earphones or headphones. And I would say that this is the major upgrade that you would do, wherein you can observe a lot of changes. Just going from a 300 rupees earphones to about 2000 rupees ear headphones will really give you the idea as to how much audio you're missing out on. And this is where it becomes quite tricky, right? In the audiophile space, headphones tend to become really costly, as I mentioned earlier. So it is up to you to responsibly judge as to how much you want to spend and what is the sort of music level that you want to attain. I would not suggest anyone splurging into this going very deep into this thing without having the sense of trying to justify whether buying 10,000 rupees headphone versus 50,000 rupees headphones, are you getting the 5 times the returns? Are you getting 5 times the detail retrieval of the headphones? So it's all about the balance that you need to. But yeah, so if you are able to make these upgrades, I think you will have a much better listening experience. When you talk about Bluetooth audio experience versus wired audio experience, it is very well known that the wired audio experience is much better, because just for the fact that when you go entirely wired, you're ensuring that there is no sort of loss in the medium, right? So if I'm playing very lossless data from my computer or my phone, the same lossless data is being transferred through wire all the way to my DACs, amps, and to my headphones. But there is an inherent caveat with Bluetooth, that is the Bluetooth stream or the bandwidth that you have is extremely limited. With the current technologies that we have right now, Bluetooth is extremely limited, so playing lossless on Bluetooth is very tricky, is what I would say. Qualcomm has come up with a lot of codecs which you must be aware of: aptX HD, aptX low latency, and Sony has their own codecs called LDAC. But again, those just try to remedy the space. They just try to work around on the drawbacks of Bluetooth. But again, playing lossless via Bluetooth is very tricky, and in many cases that's something that's not even achievable in the first place, because I am sure that LDAC is something about 990 kbps or something. That's the maximum that you can reach, whereas if you go wired, it's about 9000 kbps. So if you're going for high-res music, it's about 9000 kbps as well you can reach. But again, there is another side to this coin, right? With a lot of studies that's been conducted for this music entire domain, many people cannot even differentiate between lossy and lossless compressed music. That is, if I were to give you a very high source of high value, or the unedited or uncompressed source, and whereas they have very compressed source like an MP3 file. So if I were to play it back to you, and you would not be able to identify which is what in many cases. That's how it's very subjective here, right? So it depends. So what I would suggest is give it a try. Have a look at how lossless works, or have a listen to a lossless medium as well as a lossy medium, right? And if you are able to pick out the difference, and if you're able to say, okay, this is compressed, I cannot listen to this, I need the lossless version, then go for it. If not, if you're one of those cases where you're not able to pick it out, or if it's not very important to you, stick to lossy. It's not a big thing. If you want, in theory, in paper, if you want the best possible audio experience, it is wise to go with wired. But again, wireless or Bluetooth is mostly for convenience, and you don't have wires tangling around and stuff like that. So in that sense, it does not give you the same experience, close enough experience where it's very hard to distinguish. So as I said before, law of diminishing returns hits real quick in this hobby, and so everyone must be very cautious not to get sucked into it. FOMO hits you again in this, because if you read through the reviews online, and there's always some new audio equipment coming out, and something that's really exciting, something that looks really good, something that performs really comes out with various technologies. Right now we have dynamic drivers, we have planar drivers, we have electrostatic drivers, and so on and so forth. And in future I'm expecting a lot more to come, a lot more innovation to come, right? The thing here where you need to be very careful is the kind of value that you're getting from where you are at right now and where you are looking for, right? Say for example, you have just begun your audiophile journey and you have bought 10k headphones, which sounds really good to you. If you're coming from very cheap earphones like 500-600 rupees earphones, and if you're getting into the 10k zone, it sounds really good. You're listening and you're hearing things that wherein you are not able to hear before, right? And now from here onwards, you would think, if 10k can get me this much, what can 20k get me, or what can 30k get me? So that's the natural tendency of us to keep progressing into this. But it is for you to understand that just because you're going in the steps and the higher steps of money, it doesn't mean that you're getting higher steps of quality, right? So it is up to you to decide whether if that 10% difference is worth 30k or 20k difference that you are looking for, right? So my advice would be to go to a local headphone shop or any audio product shop, try out various things and try to figure out which one gives you the most value for your money, right? And if you have settled down with 10k and then you listen to 30k or 40k, of course they're going to sound better, but is it as good as what a 50k thing should be in your head? If it's not, then I would suggest you to restrict yourself and not get into that kind of a FOMO, or that kind of get into that rabbit hole and stop spiraling. So that would be my advice to you.